And the another thing is to have the maturity to not have to have things your way. Anyway, for us is that to have the experience of expanded consciousness, it takes certain things. So I'd like to discuss some of those things that it takes to get to expanded consciousness. So we discussed one already. One is consistency. That's unreasonable. When I say unreasonable, meaning unreasonable. I don't let reason stop me. I'm serving no matter what. Bottom rung of the ladder is not disappearing. So that's number one is serious, heavy duty commitment. Uncompromising commitment, whether I feel it or not. It's the adult. And the another thing is to have the maturity to not have to have things your way. Not having to have things your way. And perhaps this is why to make it anywhere in Kabbalistic circles, and certainly on the ladder towards prophecy, it requires being married. Because when you're married, it's not always going to be your way. And it's quite often not your way. And just add kids. And it's like, it's just not your way over and over again. And after a while, there are times where you feel like you're going crazy. Sometimes you feel like you're just going to go nuts. And especially if you have a lot of kids, you feel like you're just losing it. And by the way, it's hard to know how many kids to have exactly. And one guy walked in with 12 kids, and a secular Holocaust survivor lady just looked at this guy in her old folks home, and she said, "How many?" And the Hasidic man looked at her and said, "Till 6 million." And so it's hard to know exactly how many kids to have. You obviously want to have many, because if you're Jewish, you're not creating more overpopulation, meaning you're not creating more problem. You're creating solution. And we want to create as much of that solution as possible and raise your kids as solutions to the world's problems. That's what the Jewish people are meant to be. So raise your kids as solutions. So you want to have a lot, but on the other hand, you don't want to go totally crazy. So you got to figure out what you can handle. And I'll tell you, one of the things that's not in the criteria of how many children to have is your finances. Why? Well, there's various reasons why. One of the reasons is because each kid comes with their own Mazal. We have a tradition that each kid comes with their own bank account, so to speak, their own Mazal. You don't feed your kids feed your kids, meaning God feeds your kids, and each kid you add to your home is a new Mazal. That's one of the beauties of getting married, is whatever your Mazal is, it's being joined by someone else's Mazal. And so if you've kind of had lousy Mazal and you marry someone with pretty good Mazal, well, now you have medium Mazal. And that's going to be good for you. And I for sure, I have very powerful Mazal, and my kids and my wife have learned to rely on that, which is great because it's caused them to have very good Mazal as well. But when you have a child, that's not your job to pay for that child. That's their Mazal. Now, obviously, if you're living with luxuries and you're just an expensive carbon footprint on this world, well then, getting your kids paying for all that, and maybe that's off that's not part of the deal. like it could be that if you're going to have a big family and you don't want finances to be of concern, because you're going to utilize this fact that each kid brings their own Mazal, when I say the word Mazal, for those of my Gentile students who don't know what that means, it means that each person comes with their own. Mazal is the truth is, it's a zodiac disposition. The word Zal means flow, and a mem before the word means a cause of flow. Mem is always causative, the M sound. So Mazal means the cause of flow, and every person has a certain zodiac flow that is their Mazal. And in fact, the word zal means liquid as well. And like liquid soap in Hebrew is called sabon, that's soap. Nozlim, which means liquid. Nozlim, zal. Okay, and anyway, every person has a mazal, and it's interesting. The Jewish people's mazal is every Jewish person has mazal as well, but their mazal is irrelevant regarding the day to day. Meaning people's mazal really shifts. There's different influences by day because think about it. What is your zodiac? It's based on a birthday. Well, what's a birthday? Birthday is a day in the calendar. Well, the calendar is shifting all year, which means that your mazal is going to have a different influence each day based on the calendar shifts. Except the Jew, as we learned from Abraham, and this week's Parsha introduces Abraham, and it's exactly the Parsha, where Abraham says he's not going to have another kid, and God's like, yeah, oh yeah, you are. That's this week. Lech lecha. God's going to cause this 90-year-old man to, or no later, he's going to be 99, I think, when he will conceive Jacob with his 90-year-old wife, who was barren. And so Abraham has a conversation with God, and this is a midrashic tradition. And by the way, the word medrash means a oral tradition that's there to teach us. It's our tribal oral tradition that comes down the history of our tribes, the Jewish tribes, that are there to teach you these amazing lessons about reality. So are they literal? No. Are they there to teach you about reality? Well, I thought reality is literal. Isn't reality literal? And the answer is, if you ever want to understand reality, you're going to have to understand nuance. Nuance is a very important part of reality. Try having a conversation with a human being without being somewhat understanding of nuance. That's the danger of Asperger's, is they don't see they don't see nonverbal communication. There's nuance. How do you know a conversation's over, for example? The person you're talking to, or it might be you, will turn your foot in the direction you're going. Every human being does that. So let's say I'm talking to Sam over here, and I realize what time it is, and I got to go. You'll just see my left. If I got to go this way, you'll see my left foot go like that. And you will end it. I don't have to end any conversation. You'll end it because you get nuance. And that nuance lets you know, let's wrap this up with honor for both of us. And it will get wrapped up. But there are people who won't see that. One of those ones is the famous Asperger's, which is, some highly skilled and amazing people have, and it's hard to notice that they have it. And well, you better be a very committed woman or man to be married to someone with Asperger's, because they're going to miss it all. All that nonverbal stuff that happens between man and wife will never be experienced by them. And so, marry someone with Asperger's, well, you better be. We spoke about it earlier. You better be committed, like way more than 99% of humanity, that you're willing to not have someone recognize your nonverbal cues. Now, anyway, so medrash is for nuance, and nuance is very important. Nuance is everything, really. We do have, hard facts, but then there's nuance. And nuance is super important, and that's why we have the medrash to teach us about the nuances. So this particular medrash talks about Abraham having a conversation with God, because as you look in the Parsha, God says, you're going to have another kid. So what you don't see there, you have to click on the medrash. Then it takes you to the website where the medrash explains, the oral tradition explains, that God says to Abraham says back to God, I'm not going to have another kid. And God's like, looks at him like, you're going to tell God what's going on with your progeny? And Abraham says, excuse me, Rabbi, but I'm the master of zodiac. I know zodiac, and I know my zodiac disposition. I even know my star, my heavenly body is Jupiter. It's called in Hebrew Tzedek. My heavenly body is Jupiter, and based on where Jupiter was in the sky when I was born, no kids. At which point, God says to him, take your protein pill and put your helmet on. And he's looking down at Jupiter now. He's way above the zodiac. He's looking down at Jupiter and he's like, whoa. And all of a sudden, Jupiter, God, I don't know what he does. He goes, whoosh, and Jupiter goes like, whoosh, and like, he's meaning just to show out Abraham, that he's the one who put Jupiter where it was, and he can put Jupiter wherever he wants. You think God moved Jupiter in this story? I highly doubt that God moved Jupiter at that point of the story. But God, in the story, says he moves Jupiter and to show Abraham who's in charge here, and it goes to where Abraham's going to have kids, so to speak, but it doesn't say that in the Medrash, and because God probably didn't move Jupiter. I mean, I don't even know what would happen to our solar system if God decided to take a body in our solar system that big and move it. I don't know what would even happen if such a thing happened. Anyway. And then Abraham says, I guess I better go buy a crib and a stroller, because by the time he came back down, things were in process, and lo and behold, kids came, and not just a few, like a bunch of kids. He had Ishmael with Hagar, he had Isaac with Sarah, and then he remarries after Sarah's death. A woman named Keturah, who our tradition tells us it was actually the original Hagar, that he married Keturah, which means incense, had 6 kids, sent him eastward to the land of the east, and that's why Hinduism, like the highest caste, is Brahmin from Abraham. It's their traditions come all from Abraham, those 6 kids. Different class, but I've got that class online somewhere. Now, you have to be able to let go of reality. You have to be able to loosen up your grip. Human beings are terrible at that. I mean, really horrible at that. We're really good at kind of ossification. This is the problem with elderly people. Elderly people, they've just done the same patterns long enough that they've lost all their neuroplasticity, which is again why they love to stare at children who have all their neuroplasticity. You think about it, once you're in your 60s, 95% of what you're even seeing is just predictive models. It does exist out there, but you don't see it. You're in your predictive models. And that's why you'll notice they're less and less with a trait of openness, because they just don't want to mess with their predictive models, and you don't want to take them out of their comfort zone too much. People will get older, 70s, they just don't want much else than they like to watch. You know what they really like to watch is television, because it's very predictable what each actor will do on that. When I say television, I mean specifically sitcoms and other dramas where the character, you can guess what they're going to do in every situation. But the situations change up every episode just enough so that they sense there's novelty, but everyone's acting predictably. And but that is very detrimental to spiritual attainment. And one of the beauties of spiritual achievement, which is obviously the goal in Judaism, is that your neuroplasticity stays. Did you know that elderly Jewish spiritual seekers who spent years and years and years seeking have the neuroplasticity of children, of little ones, like real little ones? They have the neuroplasticity of children. I remember one of the elders said to our class once, we were learning esoteric knowledge, and he said, the difference between you and I, because we're all blown away by the last idea, and he says, the difference between you and I, he said, you will take what you just learned and see how to fit it into everything you've ever known. He says, and he's like many years our senior, I am now readjusting everything I've known to what we've just learned. That's how plastic his brain is. Meaning he was literally going to have an amazing day of reconfiguring everything he ever knew based on this, really beautiful thing we had just learned, while the rest of us were like, okay, let's see where this fits in. And we were quite young. I mean, we were all, that night, I think I was in my 30s at the time. And here we are with this elderly, Kabbalistic wizard who's now readjusting everything for this one piece of knowledge that doesn't even relate to what we wouldn't think relates to anything other than the subject, but it does, and he knows how it does because of his understanding the network of this divine prophetic body of wisdom. It's all deeply networked. And so, now, why are we discussing being able to let go? The reason we're discussing being able to let go is because you want your mind blown, but you don't want it blown to bits. You understand? You want your mind blown, but not blown to bits. And if you are going to resist where the wisdom takes you, meaning the wisdom's taking you way beyond anywhere you were in the past, if you are going to resist that, well, it's going to blow you away. You've got to practice surrender. It's called surrender, and you have to practice surrender. And when I'm saying surrender in this case, when I want to be specific, that I'm talking about the kind of surrender that, and a very mature surrender, that you're able to put on hold everything you've ever known and allow yourself to be shown something, bigger and at the expense of what you've known till now. And so that's a big letting go, and not everyone's quite ready for that. But based on how ready you are for that is how much light you can get. That's how much light you can receive, and therefore go up a rung on Jacob's ladder. So the requirement to get up higher on the ladder requires this level of maturity of being able to let go and to receive that. Shalom. If you enjoyed watching this, well, watch some more, send it, click it, forward it, join it, subscribe to it. Keep coming on and joining me in this amazing movement to make a big difference in the world. And the biggest thing you can do of all is to join the YomTovMediaClub.com. Please go online, YomTovMediaClub.com.